Welcome to Leadership Unlocked, where we uncover the pivotal stories that shape extraordinary leaders. I'm Dusty Holcomb, and on this show, we don't just talk about leadership, we decode it. In every episode, we sit down with the change makers who've walked through the fire, challenged the status quo, and emerged with wisdom worth sharing. These aren't just lessons, they're lived experiences, real moments that reveal the mindset, resilience, and the clarity that comes from creating lasting impact. And today, you're going to hear one of those stories. I want you to picture a Friday night football game, the noise, the energy, people who are not paid to be there, giving everything they have to a common goal. And that, my guest says, is buy-in. And on Monday morning, it gets left in the parking lot. Dave Garrison ran multinational companies on 4 continents, sat on the board at Ameritrade, and he wrote The Buy-In Advantage. And here's the claim that he hooked me with. Buy-in costs nothing, yet it doesn't exist in most organizations. And the reason is not that leaders are bad or that they're not trying, it's that nobody ever taught them how. Let's get into it. This is Leadership Unlocked. Dave, I'm delighted and excited. I'm a little energized and maybe terrified because I have a feeling that we could create this incredible flywheel of just riffing and conversation. So before I let myself just get into a long diatribe, I've got to ask you one question that I've been chewing on since our last conversation, and I can't wait to hear you not opine on, but really demonstrate your wisdom on, which is, what the heck is the difference between buy-in at a human level, at an employee level, a team member level, and engagement? Because in so many ways, aren't they the same thing? Like I think of engagement, we do employee engagement surveys. I don't think we're talking about employee buy-in surveys. What the heck is the difference between buy-in and engagement, and why does it matter?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dusty. Thanks for having me. Look, we heard a lot about engagement 10 years ago, and leaders kind of tuned out and said, yeah, that's interesting. What's it got to do with anything? And it wasn't very relevant. But engagement is a classic measure, and Gallup does a great job of doing employee surveys around the world in the US. And they ask a question, basically, would you recommend this as a place to work? And here's the sad truth. 2 out of 3 people in America say, nope. It's like, run, Forrest, run. Now, imagine what kind of work effort they're putting in if 2/3 of the people that are working for you are saying, run, Forrest, and 50% of professionals say they're looking for another job. The deal is that whether it's engagement or buy-in, and we'll talk about the difference in a second, it is directly related to how much effort people are putting into getting done what it is you would like to have done together. And I'm going to make a simple assumption that all of us are smarter than any of us, and more of us working in the same direction is better than fewer of us. So if you believe that, engagement matters. But engagement's a pretty low bar, because people could say, oh, I'd recommend this as a place to work because it serves spaghetti and pizza on Fridays, or I like the benefits, or, it's this office building is kind of cool and it's convenient and there's a great restaurant downstairs. We have no idea why people would say, I'd recommend this as a place to work. Buy-in is a whole different level. Buy-in is what you see on Friday nights at football games. Buy-in is people bringing their hearts and their souls and their minds to seeing their team win. And it's the energy and excitement. It's people bringing their full selves to a common goal. And Monday morning, buy-in gets left in the parking lot. Now, Gallup also says, look, the biggest predictor of an engaged employee is an engaged leader. And I would recommend to you that it's probably true that if a leader is not bought in, and I don't mean the leader who's getting a grillion options, I mean the leader who's actually the supervisor of a team. If they're not bought in, their people aren't bought in. Buy-in doesn't cost anything, and it doesn't exist in most businesses. Not because leaders are bad, not because leaders are not trying. It's because they don't know how to do it.
I couldn't agree with you more. You took the question I was going to ask, which is, well, how do I know it when I see it? The Friday night football metaphor is brilliant because it does just, I immediately know, oh, that's buy-in. I'm not paid to do this. I care about it passionately. I'm bringing it all here, and and I'm really aligned. The 2/3 number is fascinating because that means that, it's not like it's all the back office folks who don't actually talk to customers or don't actually talk to team members who talk to customers. It means that our customers are getting a suboptimal or sub-optimized experience. And I would say it's by design, because if we know something exists and we don't do something about it, we are intentionally allowing and curating a sub-optimized experience as a leader. And so that, like, oh, once you see this thing, you can't unsee it. We got to go figure out how to solve for this. When did you realize, or what was the magic epiphany moment, if there was one, where you went, it's more than engagement, it's more than employee satisfaction surveys. Buy-in is the leadership challenge that we need to solve to unlock the discretionary effort inside of our organizations?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can tell you there's one moment, to be honest, but I did a lot of research for the book, primary and secondary research for the book, The Buy-in Advantage. And what I saw in great leaders is a conscious effort to include everyone and to take the time to communicate why it matters. There are three things that people are looking for from work today, three things. And I hear all this, oh, it's this younger generation, they don't care, blah, blah, blah. That's said about our generation, generations before. Every generation might live differently, but it's really about ages and stages of life than it is about generations. But here's the deal. People are looking for three things. One is they want to be seen as a human being, not a cog in a machine. So we say that human beings, not human doings. Two is they want their voice heard. They bring experience to work. If you're not interested in their experience, they'll say, okay, whatever, I'll just keep it to myself. But they want their voice to be heard. And the third is they want to align with a purpose and answer the question, why should we bother doing this as a collective? And it's never about making money.
It's never about making money. You and I have talked about this a little bit in the past, and we are violently aligned about how important these elements are. I love frameworks. I love simple frameworks, and I like the rule of three, which you certainly have laid this out here. I want to go deeper on these things, but before we go there, I'd love for our audience to know that you and understand a little bit about you, and understand that the guy who is saying these really wise and smart things isn't just doing it because you read it in a book. You heard a great podcast once where someone was talking about these things. You've actually lived this in the seat, leading organizations, leading people, probably testing and learning and failing along the way to create these hard-won lessons. You've paid tuition for this wisdom. Give us a little bit of an overview of who Dave is and why these words that you're sharing aren't just good advice. They are sage counsel from someone who's got the battle scars to prove it.
You know, you don't have enough hours in your podcast for me to tell you all the mistakes I've made as a leader. I've got mistakes down. I wish I knew half of this stuff through my leadership career, which basically, I worked full-time through college, and I went to a guy I really respected in management. And I said, hey, what do I need to study in college? And he said, accounting. I said, accounting? I hate accounting. He said, yeah, that's why you need to study it. It's rules. And if you don't know it, people run rings around you. So my degree is in accounting, but my experience was in broadcast sales, selling air. And in selling air, I began to learn about other people and how sales was done. And that was very instrumental. And then fast forward, I ran multinational companies. Fast forward, a group of members who are part of the Young Presidents Organization that we both participate in said to me, basically, you're miserable, go see the shaman. It's go see a shaman, go see a shaman. I didn't know what a shaman did. I didn't have time to see a shaman, blah, blah, blah. And the shaman basically challenged me and said, look, if you didn't have any constraints at all, no constraints, tell me what you'd be doing. And don't tell me about work, tell me about life, because there is no Dave work, Dave life, there's Dave. And tell me by drawing with your non-dominant hand in symbols what your ideal life looks like. That one question took me months to answer. And I had to put aside I need to be a CEO of a multinational, and I need to make $1 million a year and all this other stuff to realize my joy, my satisfaction came all the way through leading multinational companies. So I've done this in a variety of cultures, in Asia, in Europe, in the US, and Africa. It's from seeing people achieve things they didn't think they were capable of doing. That's where my joy and all this comes about. And so the buy-in advantage really came about because I realized I was never taught as a leader, how do I create the environment where people can be their best? How do I create an environment where they can share their experiences from day one, where people don't have to wait 5 years before they're asked for their opinion? And I realized those techniques are the techniques that the leaders I interviewed were using. So all I did was put it together into what amounts to a leadership cookbook of things that are free, they're easy to do, and they create an environment where people can bring their full selves to work. It's as simple as that. I just want to change lives. Small mission.
Small mission is one that I orient to and gravitate towards and share with you. And we're going to put your bio in the show notes, and we're going to put a link to the book in the show notes as well. You understate through your chops and your background, just because that's who you are. And I appreciate that. But anyone hearing this, right, we're going to have so many sound bites and so many pearls of wisdom from this, because what we're talking about is linking the human's precious life force towards work, and how we as leaders can unlock and unleash a different level of capacity and capability and contribution and meaning, and really like being the connector between a person and work. And, I had this belief, like I had to sit down a number of months ago, and I was writing down, the purpose for my organization. And it's, I've done this years ago when I founded Arcus, and then I was thinking more and more about it. And it's like, I believe that every job has meaning, and it's the leader's purpose to help the people feel it, see it, sense it, know it, do it. And I think that you and I share that, and you do that as well. What was the moment for you as a leader? And I'm sure there's many of these moments where you realized you didn't have all the answers, and you needed a mentor, an advisor, a guide to sharpen you. When I ask you that question, unprompted, you didn't know this was coming, does a specific situation or scenario come to mind?
I had a leader in Providence, Rhode Island named Jack Clifford. And Jack Clifford is a guy, among other things, who is responsible for basically being the driving force behind the Food Network and was instrumental in the Weather Channel and other stuff. So the guy's very creative. I was leading a business unit that was undergoing a union drive by the Teamsters. And I am not anti-union. I'm not pro-union. They have their place. But I certainly did not want to be unionized because I felt I would lose flexibility. The union drive was not about my business unit at all, who was part of the bigger strategy of the Teamsters, which is great. But he gave me perspective and said, look, this is not about you. This is about people wanting to know that they are heard. And that piece of leadership advice was really useful, because otherwise I would have gone into sell mode and said, look, you don't need a union because blah, 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 blah. And what we do is we tend to sell. But what I learned from him was people will listen to you only after they are listened to. So one of the things that we work with leaders on is when somebody comes to you with an idea, if you want to shut down all their ideas forever, just give them your reaction to their idea. So if they come to you with an idea on, hey, we could do this differently, if you judge their idea and say, yeah, that might work, but here's what we could do even better, people will get the message you're not interested in ideas. What great leaders do, and we talk about this in the book, is they say, could you tell me more about your idea? And they're going to tell you more about the idea. And then the second question is the power question. Most leaders will go into judgment right away and say, well, instead we could do this, or we tried that before, or whatever. The second power question is, I'm really curious to know, what is it that lets you know that your idea is the right one versus every other idea you considered? What people will do is lay out what we call their implicit criteria. What was the checklist in your head that informed this idea? When you know that as a leader, you can then understand how do they think about things, where it is you can add value from your experience. And the way you add value is by asking another question. You know what? I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious if you also considered the time it takes to train everybody on your idea. How would that influence your thinking? So working with people on their decision muscle to make them a better contributor, a better person, because that skill will bleed over into their entire life and they will appreciate the gifts you gave them, just like I appreciated Jack Clifford when I didn't understand what he was doing, but boy, did I benefit.
Well, and hearing you say that, what I'm also hearing is someone is now invested in the outcome. They're invested in, the success of this solution that they brought to bear. They're not just a cog in the wheel. They are bought in, ensuring that this thing that we're going to do, whoever created the idea is going to win and is going to be successful. I love that. What would you tell to the person who's going, okay, Dave, I hear you, but that takes a lot of time and I don't have a lot of time and I just need to tell dumb ideas and let people know so we don't waste time around here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dusty. And what you just told me is you have time to find replacements. You have time to go chase people and ask them if they've done stuff. You have time to go interview new people. You have time to take the 50% chance the new person will be better than the last person. So if you got all that time, awesome. Just choose how to use your time.
Love that. You just demonstrated one of my favorite mental practices, which is what I call a judo move, right? Judo works because you don't receive force, you redirect force. And when we don't have time, well, you have time. You're choosing. We have choice. I just started every summer, I reread Man's Search for Meaning. And it's a bit of a ritual now. And I've never read the same book twice. Literally, at least this book, it's always a different season of life when I'm rereading it. But I love it so much because we talk about choice and he talks about agency and we talked about, how we as humans get to choose between stimulus and response. And you just said that so well. And so for that CEO who says, well, yeah, but I hear you, Dave. I don't have to have all those things. I just need to be able to do more. I need them to do their darn job. I need them to own it. I need them to be responsible. I'm kind of arguing with you as if I didn't believe in buy-in. So it's a little hard for me, but I know you've heard all of the arguments. For the cynic who wants the output and the outcome, but doesn't know how or isn't yet comfortable listening, being curious, and allowing someone else to own the actual creation of the idea, how would you coach them on becoming comfortable with something that feels scary because they're not in control?
I think that the feeling they're not in control is actually a story. And what I'd like to do is substitute another story. And let me give you an example. So let's say that you're out on the lake canoeing this weekend and you come up with some amazing idea. You come back to the office Monday morning and you say, hey, I want to share with you this idea I had this weekend. And with all your enthusiasm, you share this great idea you had. And you ask people one of the dumbest questions in the world, what do you guys think? What are they supposed to say? Or you ask, even dumber, any questions? Of course, no questions. That is well-intended. It's coming from the right place. You are applying all your experience around solving a problem and you are disengaging your team. There is no middle ground. That destroys buy-in, even though you had good intention to do it. So and so your story is, I just wanted to share the idea and see if they had any better ideas. They didn't, so we're going to do my idea. And you hear this over and over again. So here's an alternative. The next time you have some great idea, what I'd ask you to do is do work first, which is ask yourself the question, what problem is my great idea addressing? What specific problem? Number one. Second question, how do I know my idea is a great idea? The second question will let you know what your implicit criteria is. What's the checklist in your head that lets you know it's a good idea? Then when you meet with your team, instead of blah, blah, blahing your idea, all you do is say, you know what? I've been really concerned about the amount of waste on the factory floor. The data suggests we've gone from 7% to 12%. And I would really be interested in ideas on how we can address this waste issue on the factory floor. Now, before you get to thinking about ideas, here's what I'd like you to consider. I'd like you to consider what evidence you have that this idea might work. I want you to consider how long it would take to implement. I'd like you to consider how much it will cost us to implement. And I would like you to consider how much training would be required or how much reshuffling of the factory floor would be required to implement your idea. So those are the things I'd like to know about your great idea. And with that, I'd like you to take the weekend and come up with your ideas, and then we'll compare notes. So some would say, I have the great idea. I have the experience. Just go do what I say, which is fine. You have a less than average chance of your idea being implemented the way you wanted, and then you wonder how come they don't get it? How come they don't do what you say? The alternative is to engage them and create buy-in to the solution and give up ownership to your idea. Mm-hmm. You actually increase your control. So the story flip I'm going to ask you to do is say, instead of saying I'm giving up control, you are gaining control because you are setting the rules of the game by how you set the criteria and the problem to be addressed. So actually you're in total control. If you're so in love with your idea that you just want them to do your idea, don't waste any time with this. If you want better thinking, then control through criteria and the problem to be solved, and then be amazed when people apply their own experience to coming up with ideas you would never consider.
I love that. Well, what I particularly appreciate about what you just shared is the reframing of control. It's the shifting of what people want to control at a role level versus what they should control. And the leader should control the criteria for success, the definition of what great looks like. Here's what, like orientation towards the solution that we're trying to get to, not the control of the idea that we're going to force down everybody's throats. And it's a different place, and it requires people to learn how to use and leverage new skills, at least this is my thinking on it, than perhaps the skills that got them to the seat they're in now. And that's one of the things that I've been fascinated with about leadership and leadership journeys is as people grow and take on new responsibilities and new roles, they are immediately, upon entering a new role, no longer qualified for that role because they have to they have to get new skills. Like the things that got them there aren't going to be the ones that even keep them there. They got to learn new. And like I always had this idea that, what I love so much about leadership is it's not a learned behavior, it's a learning behavior. It's an active tense, never done, always getting better. And this place and this space of what definition of what control is such a subtle yet powerful Jedi mind trick to think about what it is we're trying to achieve. How, as you think about this, and I'm just going to role play with you for a second. So I say, man, I get it. I love this. This is brilliant. How do I keep that from taking too long? It feels like it would just be faster if I were to tell everybody or astound everyone with my heretofore unseen brilliance and how good my idea is. It's just going to slow everything down if I give people time and space to feel good and mandy-pandy about how they're part of the solution. What? Isn't it faster for me just tell them what to do?
The question is speed your criteria or are results your criteria? So you can tell them specifically, here's what I want you to do. Then you can invest the time to chase after them to say, did you do this? How come you didn't do it the way we talked about? How come you didn't do it the way I had it in my mind that I never told you? How come? And you can spend your time. So it is absolutely faster. Just tell them what you want done. And there's some people who appreciate that. I'm checked out. 2/3 of the people are checked out. Half the people are looking for another gig. Just tell them what to do. Don't make me think. Don't make me do anything. Just tell me what to do. It's fine. It's good for you because you feel better. Good for me because I don't have to think. It's a winner. Chicken dinner.
Well, and I think it really speaks to which 2/3 do you want to manage? Do you want to manage? Do you want to lead? Do you want to lead that you want 2/3 of your people bought in and, and leading? Or do you want to spend all your time managing the disengaged and trying to get everybody up to the minimal viable effort, the minimal viable output, and realize that there's just so much potential and waste going on in the organization.
Just to this point, we have a chapter 6 in the book is, I have to look because I don't memorize chapter titles. Chapter 6 is focus on questions instead of answers. This is so contrary, Dusty, because in school, beginning in first grade, Miss McDonald taught me there's one right answer, and my job is to repeat the right answer, and I get tested in 5 subjects for 12 years. What is the right answer? And the reality is, and so we transfer that to work. Our job must be to give the right answer because we have the most experience because we're the smartest person in the room, blah, blah, blah. So we give answers, and answers actually cut the organization off at its knees. Answers cut off results at their knees. Answers cut off buy-in. So we have a chapter devoted to ask questions, not give answers.
We sing out of the same hymnal, and I'm laughing to myself as I hear you say this. I just this week wrote an article on the importance of flipping the question to statement ratio. Like a leader 20 years ago said, hey, you need to ask more questions than you give statements, because I had a statement to question ratio. It was like a lot of statements, and I might ask a question, and mainly it was a question around, do you understand what I'm saying? And it wasn't a real question.
Yeah, don't you think? The don't you think question. Don't you think? That's a question.
Don't you think that's a good idea? Tell me where I'm wrong, guys. Does anybody disagree with me? Ask more real questions, curiosity-driven questions, learning questions. Questions can be a weapon if we're, if we're not careful, if people are not using them wisely. I love that, man. I may have to quiz you more chapters in the book, because could not agree with you more. I'm thinking, I have a particular person in mind I'm thinking about as I think about this and how they have evolved in their leadership to be question first, curiosity questions, leadership questions, not dictatorial weapon questions. And there's a big difference. Most leaders don't need more advice. They simply need clarity. That's what the Vision to Victory scorecard is all about. It's free, it's fast, and it gives you a clear picture of where you are and what's next. Start now at clarityalignmentexecution.com. Let's make sure that your next step forward is the right one. I want to go back to, because I could quiz you for hours on this stuff, and I'm going to resist all temptation. I could go back to your 3 core things that people need to get buy-in. And I'm really curious. I'm going to repeat back. You've corrected my paraphrasing. 1, they want to be seen as human. 2, they want to have their voice heard. And 3, they need to know how their work aligns with the purpose, that there is purpose to their work, that it has meaning. Why does that still matter today when AI is doing so much of the quote unquote work that gets done?
Do you have another half hour? Here's the short answer. What we know to be true about AI is it has a 7th grade education, right? So if you want a 7th grader to answer a question for you, just ask AI a question, just like you would Google, like, where should I go to dinner? Or how should I do this work? Or what should I tell this customer? You'll get a 7th grade answer. However, if you want to use AI for the powerful potential that it is, it actually requires you to identify this. Listen for these themes, identify the specific problem you would like addressed, tell it what its position is, you're an expert in whatever, and tell it, most importantly, your criteria of a great answer. I am looking for an answer that meets the following conditions. It's in line with our company values and purpose. It doesn't take a year to implement. It is something that is easily understood by everybody. I can easily find 3 stories to support it or whatever. But your criteria are what makes AI a power weapon. Interestingly enough, that's exactly the same conversation we just talked about. Instead of presenting your great idea and asking AI what it thinks, give AI your criteria. And then when you get the output of whatever AI says, if you think about it, your gut will tell you what criteria was missed. Well, this answer doesn't quite feel right because it didn't consider fill in the blank. You have an additional criteria. Then go back to AI and say, hey, AI, you also need to consider blah, 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 and get a new answer. Now, what's interesting, we talk AI will replace people and replace jobs. In software, that's probably very true. AI at the moment is hitting the big stall. I mean, AI is not having the results that people expected. But I would also argue that not only are leaders not trained in identifying specific problems and implicit criteria and making them explicit, they're not applying that to AI either, and they're not training people to do that. So it's no wonder we're in an AI stall because AI has been done to people, not done with people. And we haven't used criteria as a way to make AI work for us. There are some loaded statements. I got about 5 stories rolled into one there.
You did good, man. And you got it. That was the fastest half hour. Like we had a wormhole of time. There was a lot there. And you and I have talked about this. I am in violent agreement with you on this. And I am working on a book on this very topic right now, because I think it's going to be the difference between leaders who are successful in this next age. AI is just a tool. Just like we've had many tools in many ages that have changed things, analytics tools, internet, like you name it, whatever. Or it will expose the flaws of leadership, because the difference is AI enables us to move at a faster pace. It's just, we don't know if without leadership, if we're going the right direction, and it can actually do a lot of stuff and a lot of harm. What I love about what you said is if you get better at leading people and deploy the same skills, you will be better at leading the machines and leading the tools and creating the outcomes you want. Or if you practice those same skills on your AI tool sets, you will get better at leading people. So you have an actual real world living practice studio for the practice of leadership, the practice of effective, engaging, value accretive leadership, sitting in front of you with your AI tool. You just have to practice it every single day. And so that's actually one of the things that excites me the most about AI is I can get better at being a leader of humans if I use those same skills on the machines and on the tools. And the outcomes will be better and I get better results. This is a win freaking win. But I have to double down on the principles that like you have in your book to do those things better. And man, when that happens, it creates, I hear angels singing somewhere in the background.
Would you mind sharing again your analogy about giving people a hammer, a box of nails and wood and saying, here's a new tool?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Like this is, and I've talked to a lot of people about this and sort of like testing this and understanding this is AI, because there's so many tools. There's probably been 25 released today, right? There are so many tools available that we as leaders have said, holy crap, we're getting caught behind. Everybody needs to be using AI. If we're not an AI native organization, we're not going to be relevant. Go use AI. And so what we've done is we've given all of our employees, all of our team members, all of our people, this giant box of hammers and said, go hammer. Here's a box of nails, go hit nails. But not nobody, but the leaders aren't there stepping back to go, what is the blueprint? What is the plan? Where does the nail need to go? Here's how you hit it. In fact, you don't need a nail because this actually needs a bolt and a screw, and you've got to do it differently. We've given our organization thousands of hammers, thousands of nails, and no direction. And we're wondered why we're catching our pants on things and why we're not having all of these problems. It's because we're hammering and hammering and hammering, and we're not actually building.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what it looks like When it's not done that way, it means we ground our thinking and reinforce what our purpose is as a company. Why are we doing this? And our values, a specific objective that we're trying to achieve. We equip people with practice using AI tools. Pick your favorite, Gemini, Microsoft, I don't care which one, pick one, and practice on personal stuff like describe how you'd know what a perfect date looks like, a dinner date looks like. How would you select a restaurant? Tell me all your criteria, and have them run through practice about their life so it's not this scary thing. And with the context of within our values, aligned with our purpose, we want to solve and get better at this one specific objective. How would you think we go about that? And set people free because you've given them a specific issue to address and they've worked on criteria, or you've given them some starter criteria, and then put the AI tool to work. And then we'll see productivity changes. It's just another tool.
It's just another tool, and it's just leadership. And it's why I think those who lead and practice leadership, especially the way you've outlined it, will be the most successful in this next era, because it's going to demand it more, because there's more tools, there's more distractions, there's more waste opportunity we've ever had. Okay, Dave, I'm going to go to rapid fire because I could talk to you about this for hours. And I actually think there's a whole separate episode on leadership in AI and how we can actually practice these skills tangibly, fruitfully right now, real time. So if you're open to that, I want to hold that whole conversation for another episode. Let me ask you this one question. Normally I ask a bunch of rapid fire questions, but I want to ask one today. And I'm going to take your book off the counter because we're going to put links to your book in the show notes, and it's incredible. What is one book that you believe every leader who wants to unlock the capabilities of people in their organizations must read?
It's a fable that's easy read called 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by our friend Pat Lencioni.
Yeah.
And it's a fable because it talks about the 5 dysfunctions. And one of the dysfunctions is inability to have conflict, where conflict is not well understood. Conflict is the ability to strike together. It is not argument. We've corrupted the word conflict into being my idea is better than your idea. Ideas don't have owners if they're great. Ideas are our ideas. And so Pat's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, easy read, should be really stimulating if you see the multiple layers. And Pat wrote that, by the way, because he did consulting for 5 years in Silicon Valley and said, it doesn't matter what plan we come up with. If they can't implement it in a healthy organization, it doesn't matter. And it's brilliant.
It is brilliant. And it is a worthwhile read, reread, perennial reread. And it's timeless. It's absolutely timeless. And it's going to be timeless in every era because it's human. And that's what leaders are leading, as humans. Dave, this has been brilliant. You have an invitation. We're going to get you scheduled to go deeper on this leadership and AI topic, because I think it's timely and necessary and needed and really foundational for what people need to be thinking about. I'm delighted that you're here. How can our audience learn more about you, the work that you do, and get in touch with you if they're interested?
Thanks for asking, Dusty. Thank you for having me. We have a website, garrisongrowth.com, Garrison, GROWTH.com, garrisongrowth.com, that has leadership assessments. They're free for you and for your team to generate discussion so you can decide where to start. We also have 8 times a year free what we call leadership sprints. They're 1-hour sessions. The next one, for example, talks about what is going wrong, that our meetings are a total waste of time and they're not connected to results. And so we talk about a topic that is of importance to our community every single month. Bring your problems, bring your questions, bring your issues, sign up. It's free. It's 1 hour. GarrisonGrowth.com. Reach out to any one of my accomplished team members or myself. We love to hear about your solutions and how you apply this great work.
Love it. Dave, thank you. Thanks for being a beacon of light and for keeping the human in the leadership role and really making it simple for leaders to do the most powerful thing possible, which is to lead and impact the lives of others for positive benefit. Thank you, Dave. Hey, before you go, if this episode helped you see leadership differently, I have 3 personal requests. First, and this is the most important one, share this with one leader who needs it. Think of someone in your network who's frustrated with their team's execution or is trying to scale their own impact. Copy this episode link right now and text them, "Hey, I just listened to this episode and I think you'll get real value from it." That simple act of sharing, that is servant leadership in action. Second, subscribe to Leadership Unlocked. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast player, just hit subscribe or the follow button. That way you won't miss the next episode and it helps us reach more leaders like you. And third, if you're willing, this would be a huge help for us. Leave a 5-star rating and write a quick review. I know it takes 60 seconds of your time, but here's what it does. It helps other leaders discover the show. Every rating, every review, it's how we expand our impact together. So those 3 things, share with a friend, subscribe, leave a review. I'm deeply appreciative and that would give us so much help. Thanks for being part of the Leadership Unlocked community. Now go create some clarity for others.